this room ever tried to meditate? I imagine, right? I know I do. I try to meditate all the time. It's the worst, right? It's the absolute worst, trying to meditate. It's like trying to walk. You know how to walk, just walk. So I got there on Thursday, and the first few sits on Thursday was me trying to meditate. And it's so funny, I don't know what it is. It kind of reminds me of like, does anybody, like if you still talk to your family, no judgment if you don't, I totally understand. But whenever I go hang out with my family, I'm instantly 5 years old. And I'm like the class clown and the screw up, and I'm who I was in the family dynamic. I'm the trickster, joker, youngest, truth teller, always sticking my foot in my mouth. And it's a weird thing. I'm 50 years old, I'm a very serious person. And I go there and I'm just, if you know me, it probably is not a big surprise. But it's like a similar thing whenever I go to Yokoji and I go up the mountain, I go sit in the Zendo and I'm like, watch this. And it's a disaster every time. So Thursday, I was just struggling and I was like running through my whole litany of techniques and I was just restless and the mind was sluggish and dreamy. I'd get a little collected, a little gathered, and then I'd slip into too much relaxation and I'd dream. And it's just this whole, it was a whole thing. And then Friday morning, I was about to eat breakfast. I think that's when it was. And the birds up there is a whole riot. It's amazing. Like the birds and the bats and the deer. I mean, then the squirrels. It's like a nature preserve up there. It's in this river valley in Idlewild. It's gorgeous. And the birds were just having their usual morning to do, like just a riot. And then there was this moment of silence, followed by a single bright, sharp bird cry. Just a single note. And then a second of silence, and then the whole gang joined in, and it was the riot. Something about sitting quietly in that like 10 seconds where I sit, my food's on my plate, I'm just gonna wait. Think about my teachers, think about the Dharma. May this be for the benefit of all beings before I stuff my face. I'm sitting there and that single sharp bird cry somehow flipped the script and reminded me that I'm just receiving this experience. I didn't make the silence, I didn't make the bird cry, I didn't make the riot of birds after, I didn't do any of that. And it's not up to me. I don't need to so tightly control and manage every aspect of my experience. It's an easy kind of patterning to get into, especially with meditation. Like think about how minutely a practitioner of meditation could get into wanting to direct their inner program. Like we're meditation students, we get under the hood, we reach in there, we mess around with the wiring, we pay attention to attention, we pay attention to sensory clarity, equanimity, concentration, all these faculties, right? And so much of meditation is really presented like that. It's like the kind of extreme end of like, I don't know, self-care and human potential and, kind of like direct neurohacking. Like some podcast bro. So I could very easily see that. And it was so helpful to be reminded that's not your job. Your job is to sit and rest and simply be present to whatever is arising. And it may be surprising to some of you who sit with me constantly because that's all I say here. You don't have to do anything. Just rest. Your only job is to be present to your experience without managing or controlling. And I'm sitting there, and it took that bird and the whole forest and the mountain to remind me. And every sit after that was so much easier. And I was so grateful for that reminder. I don't have to do anything. I just need to sit and rest and be present. The retreat was titled Still Mountain. And one of the things that occurred to me was these mountains are not still. There are constant riding of birds and insects and squirrels and deers. There's even a mountain lion whose territory extends into the upper half of the mountains there. The wind blasting through the pines. It's wild up there. There's a lot going on. So I was thinking about there's nothing still about this mountain. There's life and death and predator and prey and birth and becoming and old age and sickness. And, this is all going on. And yet, the mountain is vast enough to contain all of it with no effort. The mountain is vast enough to hold spaciously whatever is arising within its domain. And it made me think, this is all of you. Your awareness is vast enough to hold all of your memories, all of your plans, all of your ideas, all of your dreams, hopes, worries, loves, joys, sufferings, factoids, trivia, favorite songs, favorite recipes, the first time you had that delicious dessert at that one place, you know the place, or the first time, etc., 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 and never run out of space. The problem is when we kind of collapse, right? When an experience arises that is unpleasant, activating, agitating, mobilizing, and I collapse around it. And it's the nature of awareness to kind of do that. I'm sitting here very nicely and then I remember some scary thing I have to do. It instantly becomes the biggest thing in my whole heart. Not because my heart is that small, but because it's the nature of awareness when left to its own to kind of go, and I'm like, oh no. And when I relax and open, the thing doesn't change. I still have to do that scary thing, but there's more space around it. And my heart becomes more like the mountain, like the tree, like the river and the sea. I kind of figured out that just like the mountain does a perfectly wonderful job mountaining just by being the mountain, then the mountain is mountaining, the tree is treeing, the river is rivering, the sea is seeing. And when I'm open and soft and meet my experience in that gentle way, then the me is meing. And that works out just fine.